from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today card 5 in my stamp set series featuring Lawn Fawn's Fly High stamp set. I have already started by die cutting my circle out of a card base and the front panel. I do them both at the same time to save me time, and for lining up this way I don't have to worry about that card base and my front panel not lining up perfectly. And so it doesn't cut through the greatest on that card base. It's not a huge deal to me. I just go in with a little X-Acto knife and kind of make the rest of the slit where it didn't actually cut all the way through. I do make sure to put a piece of paper underneath it when I run my whole card base through my die cut machine. Why? Because my plates look like they've been well loved, and so it will transfer that texture onto your card base. And so just to be mindful of that if you don't want it to look like, you know, textured cardstock. It's not a pretty texture, just saying. So I already have my 2 balloons colored and cut out, and I'm just going to add, it's a fine filament, or in this case the filament that I'm using is actually what you would consider like a clear beading thread, I guess. It's where mine comes from. It comes from my beading stash. I didn't want to, you don't want it to be too heavy, but you want it to be heavy enough. I think this one's got like a 3-pound test weight or something like that. Fishing line would work. You could get away with probably some white thread or thread that is similar in color to your background. It might not show up too much. The fun of this one is the illusion that that spinner piece is just kind of hanging there. We all know it's attached, but it kind of gives that illusion of, you know, an object hanging in space. So I do go around and kind of trim up my extra cuts. I do not have the coordinated dies for this one, so I run them through the Brother Scan and Cut, and it's not always, you know, 100% on making sure those cuts line up properly. So I modify as needed. So to attach my balloon, I put down a piece of score tape and then make the string taut, set it down, or the fishing line, I guess, and then put another piece of score tape over the top of it. Now for this one, I probably go extra because I like to make sure that it is going to hold in the long run, and you will see when I add my base on what I mean when I say extra. I decided that I needed some clouds for my background piece here, and since I'm going to inlay that circle into the inside of the card, I added it to my base piece here, and that way I can ink them both at the same time, and that it'll be a seamless blend or seamless clouds inside and out. And yeah, I used my green blending brush. It probably should have got washed. It was definitely a tad more green than I was aiming for, but it did dry back pretty good, so it's not too horrible bad. It is what it is. I was on the phone. I wasn't necessarily paying total attention to what I was doing. It happens. I am bringing in some Distress Stain in Broken China. I was trying to make it look more blue. And then some Brutus Monroe Frost Aqua Pigments in blue. So it's kind of got, once they dry, it has a blue sparkle to it. Granted, I mixed it with the Distress Mica Stain, or the Distress Stain, so it, you know, was going to be blue regardless. I could have used a Distress Mica Spray Stain, but I opted to go this route. And then I'm just rinsing off my brush there. Nothing major. Cleaning up my mess that I make. Usually I like to splatter inside my splat box, and lately I've been not splatting inside my splat box, and it makes a big mess. I really need to get back to splatting in my splat box. So I'm going to add in my double-sided adhesive here. And then as I close this up, I am going to fold my twine or my string over my adhesive and then cut it down a little bit, but I'm going to make sure that it's sticking extra good to that adhesive. This way, hopefully it doesn't let loose if you play with it too much or you wind it too tight. It hopefully will stay. Plus, then I go in there with some liquid adhesive because if you can tell, my lining up skills are less than great. It allows me that little bit of wiggle room to adjust as needed. And yes, I did go a little out of the lines with my score tape, but I was able to push it back, and so you couldn't see it in the finished card. And then I'm just going to line up that inlay piece here. I couldn't do it over the top because obviously my balloon was already there. And then I'm going to proceed to play with my little spinner cloud immensely. And so for my last card, if you saw my last card, I did a platform pop-up with the swish and pop feature. And so my little mouse in there had a front and a back to his head because I also did the front to back on the balloon. So at least if you're looking at it from the back side, it doesn't look, you know, like the back of a colored balloon. And I thought it was a cute idea to do the back of the animal on the back of the balloon. So of course I needed to get a frog head onto the back of my balloon. And so I ended up, I'd colored extras in my little froggy friends here. And so I just kind of copied the outline that bled through a little bit and made the back of my frog head. It worked. I futzed around with it probably more than I needed to for a little froggy head, but it's all in the details. And then since they're such little pieces, I did use my reverse tweezers to help me place those. I've kind of had some pork chop fingers lately that don't want to work. It is what it is. I'm going to add some more detail to the back of that frog head. Yeah, I told you I spent way more time on the back of my frog head than I probably needed to. Yeah. He was looking plain. He needed some character. So once I am happy with my spinner feature here, all that is left is to figure out what else to put on the front of the card. I just decided to go super simple with a sentiment on this one because that little cloud spinner is supposed to be the star of the show. So I brought in I want to say they're the wavy banner. They're from Fawn. I can look them up, but it's like their wavy banner die that folds, and then it has a little bit of pop to it once you can, there's ways to glue it down that you don't get the pop, but I like that little bit of spring to it, and it folds flat for cards anyway, so it's all good. So I futzed around to get my sentiment to curve to that line. Yes, it took me forever. Yes, I cut out some video because it was a struggle. So once I have It's Your Birthday on my little banner there, I am going to pop that onto my card base. I only add glue to those little pendants that are going on the back part. So I'm holding it down until it's dry, and then I let it just naturally pop up. So it's going to keep it fairly flat, but it kind of gives that middle piece a slight bow, but you can throw it in an envelope, no problem. No foam adhesive needed to keep that part popped up. It just naturally kind of hangs out there like that. And then I thought it would be fun if when you open it up, the sentiment is hidden behind where the balloon is on the outside. And so I'm just going to take my stamping block here, and I'm just lining it up and holding my finger to hold my spot because I didn't want to have to get out the MISTI to figure out how to get it in there, and I just needed it to be close. And did I get it close? We will find out right about here. And of course, we have to go back to that whole spinning again. Yes, it hides the sentiment perfectly, and then it spins as you open it. It's fun to play with. What can I say? I've maybe taken it for a spin or two around the block. A couple of times. Anyways, there's my finished card for today, and that should close out my Fly High stamp set series. You will be seeing some more of those lovely blooms. Keep getting inky. Bye!